Hello fellow space engineers, this is Marcelo from ACFM Gaming, and today we're going to talk about the CIC and the crew members that use it. So let's begin by defining what a CIC is. The three-letter acronym means Combat Information Center, and as it implies, is the place of the ship in which the information and data is processed to make the best decisions during combat. Now that being said, creating a CIC in Space Engineers brings its own particular set of challenges. The first and most obvious of those could be finding a good balance between crew size and the actual size of the room in which you're going to build the CIC. This is particularly important because the room needs to be armored or protected in one way or another. So while it cannot be too big, it needs a considerable amount of space to place the LCD screens in which you're going to display your information. Now the other is that it does require scripting. You need to use at least, in my opinion, one script to display the information that you need. Because to be honest, just displaying data from sensors which are laggy, using lots of timer blocks, and also the built-in in-game icons is not going to be enough. You may end up building an entire ship just to, have a wall of displays. So considering all that, I decided to fall back to my all too familiar form factor of 5 by 5 by 2. Be 5 blocks wide, 5 blocks in depth, and 2 blocks in height. And I chose this arrangement because I find that odd numbers, specifically 3 and 5 when it comes to blocks, it helps you organize things easier when it comes to block placement and the walkways from which you're going to have to maneuver around. And it also allows for a centralized position for the captain's chair. And now that's going to be a good segue to start talking about the crew members. Now, as you can see here, I have a central captain chair. And the main idea behind the captain's chair is that from this position, the person in command can access all of the information and all of the screens. And it has also a view of the crew members sitting next to him or her. Now we have on the left an engineering position, which from this position basically you're cancelling out the data that is not needed for that crew member. Now I'm using this almost fisheye view with the 90-degree view just to show you the space of the CIC, but usually you will be using a more, let's say, a little bit more constricted zoomed in view, so you can actually see all of the data that is displayed. Now the engineering position, he can see the power management and the components that he needs to do repairs when the situation arises. The engineer also has a glance of the radar contacts and the Holographic Raider table. On the opposite side, the starboard side, we have the tactics officer, and he gets a direct view, as you can see there, of the weapon status and the position and speed of the ship, as well as the ammunition count. And if he looks towards the left, he has a list of the damage blocks. Now, this whole design here in this triangle is meant to ease the relaying of information between the particular crew members. For example, the main objective of the tactics officer is the control of the guns, so he has to go into the menus, manage the turrets, activate each set of turrets when the situation arises, even, and this is a common problem with the game, when a turret gets damaged, it becomes neutral, so he has to go into the menu and re-own it, so he has to basically be looking at which turrets are operational and which ones are damaged or being repaired, and he has to relate that information to the engineer so he can order the production of a particular set of components to repair those turrets. Now, like I said before, the captain has access to all of the data at once, and both of the crew members, the company crew members, can actually look at the holotable. Now, speaking of the holotable, this is another segue that I want to take in to talk about the mods that basically enhance a CIC. Now, with scripts alone, you can have a pretty good functioning CIC, especially if you have cameras all around your ship, and also you have the third-person view enabled. Now, I like to design my ships to be able to function even in the most hardcore of modes of the game. So, for example, if I go into a server or with a group of friends and we're trying to do a scenario in which just to challenge ourselves, we want to disable the third-person camera, we can still control the ship from here, which is, let's say, a less exposed position than the actual navigation bridge up above. Now, speaking of mods, we are using two mods because mainly one of the biggest tasks that is performed at a CAC is sensor information management and analysis. So we're using the Active Raider mod and the Holographic Raider mod. And we're using them in tandem because the Active Raider, as you can see here, is displaying contacts all the way down there. And it displays contacts on the HUD. It doesn't display them here on this table. So if we go here and we activate the HUD, just wait until the radar does a cycle, and there you see large ship. We're going to exterior view. You see large ship, the contact being displayed on top of that ES battlecruiser. Now, we use that for early warning, and we have it set, as you can see there, to have a minimum distance of 200 meters so it doesn't detect our own drones or fighters, and a maximum distance of 50 kilometers, which is the max range that it allows. So it's an early warning radar. Now, for close-in management of contacts and even navigation aid, we have the holographic radar, which is right here, and the captain, in this case, the flying or piloting of the ship could be either switch back and forth from the tactics officer or the captain, depending on the situation. If the captain, for example, needs to take more of an overview role, he can use the exterior view, the third-person view, or if it's disabled, he can use the set cameras, while the tactics officer controls the ship and actually shoots the fixed guns that the vessel has. So from this perspective, you can see right in front of you, so you know if the enemy ship is in relation to you, above, below, behind you, and so on. Now, the addition of those mods wasn't the only thing that influenced the construction of the CIC. As you can see, here we have a text panel which is, let's say, shorter, but has the same width than an LCD panel, and we wanted to have like a clear view, display more information on these panels, and we had to, let's say, create this bolted room here with this shorter text panel here, so from when you see from this position you don't get that much interruption. If you would place an LCD screen here, you would be cutting off a little bit of the line of sight for this, although this big programmable block is already doing it, but it's not as bad as if it was being blocked right here on the top. Also, this bolted room allows for this like low intensity illumination, so you can actually look at the screen, which are tinted green, both because I like this whole retro look of it, and also green is the color that the human eye picks up the most, so it's also a matter of contrast and being able to actually read those letters. So before we continue, let me show you the, let's say, immediate surroundings of the CIC. We have these two kind of like passenger seats and the small arms locker. For easy access of these two crew members in case they're participating into any kind of like boarding action, maybe they need to get quickly to their fighters or control their drones from those seats, they can do it using the antenna relay. Now this is the staircase towards the navigation bridge, and as you can see, the navigation bridge, just to have a comparison between what an nav bridge is and a CIC, is the place from where you would usually fly the ship. I mean, you can do it perfectly from the CIC, but this is more of like a Like the name implies, it's for navigating. You get like this whole cockpit view from it. You can actually gauge the volume of the ship, the sides, in case you want to dock to a space station, you just don't break it. So you usually would do it from here. And you still have some meaningful related information, position, speed, the geometry charges, and hydrogen and oxygen tanks in case you're in a long journey. Now, we're using mmaster scripts for managing the whole like information display of the ship, and we're using Whiplash automated airlock script to have this nice um, no loss of oxygen. You see, I didn't have to press it, so it closed after 3 seconds, and now this is activated. So I open this, and this door turns off, so I cannot go back in. Anyway, now let's talk about the crew members. And for this, I'm using the amazing mod by Tartarus Inc. with his mannequins. Okay, I've mentioned many times in my previous videos how like player availability and bluntly the number of players that you're basically allowed to have in a single server is somewhat limited. So the crew size is also going to be limited by that. And this is not necessarily a negative thing. In Space Engineers, we have amazing tools, and in most servers, you're going to find out that they don't play Survival 1x. I mean, they play with at least 3x inventory, and we are playing with a 3x inventory right now in our dedicated server. So a single crew member is going to be able to build, repair, and do a lot by him or herself. So for that reason, I have divided, let's say, it's not an ideal crew. It's a crew that you can actually, form up with the buddies that you play with according to their personalities. And I have actually created this model based on like the gameplay personalities that my friends have and what they like to do in the game, the tasks that they enjoy, the ones that they don't like that much. So it's a more forgiving structure. It's not even a hierarchy, if you want to call it like that. So I devised this more of like triangular arrangement for it, and the crew members are not positions by themselves because basically in this game everyone builds, everyone uh, mines to some extent. So it's more like branches of the crew, and we have the executive or the command branch, which is represented in the center by this military suit. We have the tactical branch on here on my left, which is represented by the pilot suit, and we have the engineering branch, which is represented by the worn engineer suit. Now on the back side we have two crew members, or they could be crew members or slash marines that are represented by the multi-camouflage suit. Now these branches can actually grow, and each one could have like different subdivisions, but that is more for people who are like really heavy into roleplay, or people who are like more into like the whole milsim thing, and that's not how we play. So but even so, I wanted to create something that could be adapted to those roles in case you play in a server that has them. So for the executive or the command branch, this is going to be the type of player that likes to organize things, that likes to plan, and maybe devise some objectives ahead. If you have a friend who basically likes to play as game master and likes to set up objectives or create like a back faction lore or create the world and he hosts them, basically this is going to be like the most likely candidate to have as a ship captain or even as a battle group commander. Is the type of person that keeps the things going. That said, this is the one that I feel most identified with. I always running around the server doing server cleanup, like trying to rally up people. It's something that I really enjoy, bringing people together. Pretty much it relates to kind of like the objective that I have with this channel. So now moving on, for the tactics branch or the tactical branch, if you have that kind of friend that likes to fly fast ships and pretty much like shoot at things and blow things up, and it's all about maneuvers and doing flybys and can actually destroy even small ships with pinpoint accuracy, well, chances are this is the kind of friend that you want to have for the tactics officer in your ship. Chances are is the kind of friend that you want to have flying your own ship, even if you are the captain or the builder of said vessel. Now, the two things that they have in common, these two branches, the tactics and the executive, is that generally they don't like mining. And I have to say it, I do not like mining. I rather grind down every day than just go with 100. I don't know, they could be seen as the same monotonous activity, but that is just my preference. So moving on, we have the engineering branch. And what kind of player is the engineer? I could resume it in I could put in a single sentence. If you have a friend who actually uses conveyor sorters and know how to work, well, this is gonna be your engineer. This is the type of person that is all about efficiency, that knows how to set up a refinery, and what amount, like just at the top of his head or her head, knows exactly how many ores the ship has, how long it's going to take for them to, be turned into ingots, like how many components you need for to, building X block, the amount of thrust that you're going to require to lift that from a planet, and etc. And it's also going to be really good at doing damage control. And that being said, we've been experiencing great updates lately for the game. We can actually walk on a moving ship right now on a dedicated server, and that is a huge thing. So maybe in the near future you could have your engineer friend running around and fixing stuff while the ship is in combat, which would be quite exciting if I say so myself. So that's gonna be your engineer, somebody who likes building industrial ships and basically knows a lot about the inner workings of the vessel and knows how to repair conveyor lines and keep them active. Now, like I said before, all these branches could be augmented. You could have like a chief engineer, a chief tactical officer. It could be kind of like an XO, and handling, especially if you have a build. And like I said, this is again, like the bigger the crew you have, the bigger the game is gonna move from actual PvP to more into roleplay. So if you have a bigger ship that has player-made turrets or player-made weapons, or you like, for example, having like a drone carrier, you're gonna end up having like a chief tactics officer or an executive officer that has under his or her command, let's say even at least one or two other players that are going to do such tasks. Now the same goes for the engineering branch. You could have like two dedicated crew members repairing stuff, or one managing the refineries and producing, for example, metal plates during combat, so you can keep those self-repair welders going. And also at the same time, from the executive branch, you could have a navigator, someone that is just dedicated, for example, to setting up GPS coordinates and doing combat jumps during any kind of engagement, just managing those jump drives, because remember that they do require an actual crew member to press the button for you to jump. So you could basically delegate that task. Also, this is especially useful for switching the destination for the jump drives, because you do have to go into the menu and change that. So it's not something that you do with a hotkey. So for that matter, you would actually require a navigations officer. And now, last but not least, we have the Marines, or they could be crew members. Now, I designated them as Marines because it's been an increasing concern, especially now lately in our playthrough in planets, landings, whether it be cyberoids or the cyberhounds, I think they're called. Uh, they don't explode, but I had an experience just yesterday in which they ate the back half of my dropship without me even noticing. So you want to have at least some type of company. Now, it would be ideal if you could have these as NPCs. You could just like point them, or maybe set flags, like medieval engineers, and they would like cover the area of the landing site and so on. But when it comes to players, um, this could be an ideal position for, let's say, like a newcomer to the game, Or for example, if you had that friend that is like all about FPSs and like just like shooting rifles and stuff and blowing stuff up, or like building warheads and setting them off, this is basically the type of friend that you're gonna designate as a crew member or as a marine. It could be, like I said before, if it's a starting position for somebody in a server, he could learn like all about the game. He could be, an assistant to any of the other players, and that way it would be like a more organic way of training a new player. It would also be, and that's kind of like the case for us in our server, when we have new people. It's not like we immediately like fit them into a hierarchy. It's more like they learn what they like from the person that is already into like that train of thought. So it will be a good addition to have. And also, if you have like a dedicated boarding crew or dedicated drone pilots, you could actually keep maneuvering your ship and supporting them and working in tandem, as opposed to docking the ship, jumping off, and trying to grind that Argentavis reactor and then get killed off by a turret. So you could have these two or even three guys doing that task while you support them and snipe off the interior turrets from afar. And okay, this is what I consider would be like a minimum, somewhat medium to large crew, especially because in servers, everyone wants to have their ships, the large grid, and their fighters and all that, and that's uh, kind of like the only thing that stops in, let's say, a faction to develop like this kind of like integrated command of a single vessel, is the fact that this game is so open that everyone wants to build their own thing. But still, it's let's say an option for a little bit of role playing. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'm quite sure that you guys have different views on factions and organization or even hierarchy. I definitely love to hear them. I would like to hear about your experiences in PvP or PvE co-op servers, how you manage, if you're a member of faction, how you organize, how do you subdivide into different ships. If you have, for example, a small task force of like 2 to 3 frigates, let me know about that. So take care and keep playing.